Good morning, gardening friends. I'm Lark, and I'm going to take you for a tour of my Wisconsin garden, mostly perennials. I will be adding some annuals later. Overcast, about 65 degrees, beautiful. I didn't think I'd be adding more to the garden, but I had some daylilies that were already potted up and needed planting, so I put them in here. Comfrey's doing really well back here. Comfrey's back there, way in the back. This is a woodland poppy. And another name for it is called celandine poppy. So let's do the perennial bed. We'll walk away from here. Yep, for those of you that don't think I have weeds, there's a dandelion, but I eat the greens. So today I have to pick dandelion greens, and it helps me find the dandelions in the garden if I leave the flowers on. When I pick the greens, then I'll snip the flowers off also. Ajuga. I guess you would say my garden is becoming more of a permaculture because I don't have time to do all the weeding. So we will have violets coming up, and we will pick them and put them in our salads. And we will pull some of them because they are really quite invasive after a while. Jacob's Ladder, good spreader, gives me that blue I want. Pretty birdies. I also have Dame's Rocket, and a lot of Wisconsinites would say, oh, it's invasive, but I will be deadheading it before it goes to seed, and maybe even pulling some of it out. But I like that pink early in the season. That's a crane, sandhill crane. She's nesting nearby. Smoke bush. Just starting to bud out. And I keep it a bush. That's a celandine poppy with it. I want that to spread, the celandine poppy. Sorry. I find that pretty. I like that sound. Especially around April, I think. Oh, you guys are too early. But it's a sign that spring is going to arrive quickly. Plum pudding. Now this tour is going to be lengthy, so for you guys who don't like to stick around too long, oh well, just tune in for a little while and come back later. Now, one of my other chores in the garden that I do weed is like this grass that's going to seed here. I pull it, at least the seed head, because I don't want more grass. And I did that for, about an hour yesterday, pulling seed heads of the grasses. That's a woodpecker you hear. Pileated woodpecker. Pygmy barberries I use for burgundy color all season too, at least 3 seasons. Oriental poppies. You can see that I cage my oriental poppies so they don't flop over, especially after a rain and they have the big buds on. Then when they're done, I will remove the cage and put it on something else, probably. New ground cover for me. Boy, this is aggressive because I just planted that last, about July, I think. And I had enough to put over there, too. But I like it. And someone, I think, told me it was Angelina. And we've gotten a lot of rain, so it's more golden. But as the summer progresses and it's dry, it will turn like a red-orange, especially on the new growth. See how the silver foliage makes the garden look nice right now? Even though we don't have flowers on it yet, just the silver foliage looks good. You can see it like all the way down the garden edge. I put it every so many feet. It's called Snow in the Summer. See, it stands out. And anything silver usually is very drought tolerant. Spurge is giving me that yellow also right now. And that's a dragon's blood sedum around it. One or two tulips. I don't plant them anymore. The deer and the bunnies get them. And then they just don't come back anymore. Alliums are good this year. Yucky foliage, always yucky foliage for me. If you know how to not get yucky foliage, let me know. But a lot of buds. A lot of Jacob's ladder. I'll just cut it down back later and maybe pull some out if it gets to be too much. But I want the ground covered. Now you can see with my lasagna method of gardening or chop and drop that there is yucky stuff all on the ground. But it will fill in. And you won't see it and it will feed the earth. So it's not bad. Early in spring it doesn't look pretty, but it'll do its benefit. Prairie smoke. And you see, I see a dandelion seed head. Okay, and then that tells me there's some nice size dandelion leaves that I will pick today. And the seed heads. Hens and chicks. Here in Wisconsin, Zone 5, they come back nicely. Some rot out, maybe too much snow sitting on them or something, but they're so aggressive that it doesn't matter. Linum or blue flax. Very dainty foliage. It'll be pretty blue later on. But I'm trying to concentrate on what's blooming now. The pink geranium, cranesbill, is just starting. And that goes here and there and everywhere in the garden. So next tour maybe it'll be more in bloom. And then a pretty light blue iris. Just a dwarf. I had miniatures in there too, but I don't see them. There might be one or two in there. Nice ground cover sedum too. I forget the name of it. Pretty kind of blue-green burgundy stem. See all the chop and drop and the oak leaves laying down there? Yes, the oak leaves do block some of the seeds that I call from what I call come again plants, like rose campion and verbena Buenos Aires. They need light to germinate. So if I don't have them in the garden, I do start some in pots, and I'll put them sporadic around the garden. Today is my weeding project. Now that I start with the paths and the edges of the garden, and it rained last night, so the weeds will come out good. See, I do have weeds. That one's called caramel. I think I have to treat it to some compost because that's really compacted dirt on this edge here because he drives the tractor wheel on it. Doesn't that bluish purple, I don't know what it's called, a stamen or fuzzy thing there. It's so pretty, it looks iridescent. Just starting. Passion flower or pasque flower, yeah, pasque flower. My yuccas always look yucky for a while. Here's another weed that I dislike in the garden. I think it's creeping Charlie. We'll work on it, especially, you know, the edge of the garden and within maybe 4 feet from the edge. New planting from my friend Jody. White Nancy. Oh, I think it's a dead nettle. Pretty foliage. White flower. And it's so dry always under this pine tree, so it should brighten up this area. I hope I'm not bouncing around too much. It's the best I can do. And you know I don't do editing, so this is it, my friends. Another pretty corabill. Basket of gold. I think it's an alyssum. Let's walk down the path. Just listen for a while. Ligularia Othello. I pepper sprayed my garden about a week ago, but I'm going to have to do it again because it rained and the deer have chomped on some of the phlox. They love this Solomon seal here coming up, the wild, and I love how it gets like 3 foot and arches over. See, in some places you see the chop and drop a little more. And I'll be putting annuals in if it doesn't fill in. Ajuga. I think this might be called Caitlin's Giant. Remember my trumpet vine tree? Well, the wind took it one day and the pole was rusted, which I thought I used aluminum, but I must not have. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it. Right now I'm looking for a free patio umbrella and thinking of a way we can fix it to the top. We'll see. It'll come to me or someone else. So, excuse me, so dry under these pine trees. I had taken and chewed some cocoa nibs before I started here. Now they're kind of scratchy in my throat. Another path that needs weed in. See, my friends? A nice plant, and there is a clump of it right there, and I let it reseed, but it isn't too aggressive. That's called Sweet Sicily, and it's edible. I use it for tea sometimes, and the seeds can be crushed. They taste like licorice, kind of. Here it is in flower. Pretty flower. Pretty this time of the year. We get a little white. Lots of bumblebees I've been seeing. A few honeybees. Another nice shade perennial is Simicifuga, Hillside Black Beauty. Nice foliage. About, the plant gets about 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet, but then it sends up a stalk and a very fragrant flower at about 5 feet later in the summer. It's a must in a shade garden. It takes a long time though to get a mature clump. Oh, this is a favorite area of the deer. They love this variegated Solomon seal. Pepper spray, I use 1 tablespoon of pepper flakes to 1 cup of water, so 1 to 1, and I boil it. And don't breathe that in. And then I let it set overnight, so for about 8 hours. Strain it, and then I use 1 cup of that to a gallon of water, 1.5 gallons of water. Depends on how your plants will take it. You better, I don't spray when the sun is out, definitely, either early morning or dusk. But you can see, I'll show you, where were they eating here? Right here. Let's see. They help themselves to phlox. Trolleus, or the globe flower. Lots of lady's mantle down here. You'll see it later in bloom. It's pretty. Nice ground cover. As is the Japanese painted fern. And it's liking that I do the chop and drop method because now the soil fertility is better. Baneberry, a native to Wisconsin, is getting a white flower on it right now. Let me see. Real tiny. But it'll turn to a fire engine red berry, which will hang on for 2 months. Pretty. That's a red in the shade garden. We'll walk down by the trilliums. That hosta stays short. Golden scepter. Plus, it stays pretty gold with sun on it. Not too bad. It doesn't get bleached out. This gets part sun. A very short dwarf goat's beard. If you're familiar with goat's beard, gets a white feathery flower, kind of like a stilby. A nice native trillium that gets more red foliage. And a Japanese maple that died and it's coming back. And lots of lily of the valley. Daffodils are winding down and hostas are taking over. Now, I planted all these daffodils in here 20 years ago, and the hostas about, the 20 years ago. And it helps keep the deer out for a while. Plus I pepper spray too. I guess I don't want to take any chances. But they don't like daffodils, neither do bunnies. Well, they're poisonous, so that's why they don't like them, I guess. Ostrich and cinnamon ferns. Down by this will be the girls' fairy garden. Isn't it pretty how they unfurl? And no, I have not eaten them. Grape hyacinths. And a wild onion. And I did not plant these. And I've given up on trying to pull them out. So I cut them down after a while if I don't like the foliage. I definitely pick off the seed heads. Doesn't look like it's working though. Looks like I still have a lot of them. Climbing hydrangea. I don't think it's going to bloom this year. It's a younger one on here. Hopefully it's going to arch on this tree. I don't know if I'll ever see it, but maybe if I visit the garden when I'm over at Three Pillars. Foam flower. Pretty little white starry flower, but I like the foliage and its mounding habit. Good ground cover. Forget-me-nots. Here and there. I just let them come up where they want. More Japanese painted fern. Lungwort. Now the flowers are almost all gone. There might be a few here and there that are blue and turn pink, but it's the foliage I grow this plant for. And it has really loved the chop and drop method and all the oak leaves on the ground here. I used to rake all that. How silly of me. Now I just leave it and the plants are responding. Mother Nature says, let me have control, Lark. Okay, Mom. There's the taller goat spirit. It'll get about 5 foot with a white plume on. And nice for the shaded area, that white down here. It's a boggy area, so these sedges like it down here. Kind of a variegated yellow and green. And a native, oh, what is that? I forget. That's Orthello, Ligularia. Some of the original plant of Bloody Dock or sorrel. Likes it down in this wet area, as does this Trolleus globe flower. Loves that. The loosestrife, dragon's, oh no, firecracker loosestrife, this burgundy. Now it stays burgundy until about early summer, probably July. Then it starts turning greener and gets a yellow flower. And a rain will knock it over, so then I cut it down to the ground if I have time. Mayaples. Very aggressive, so you better plant them in a space that you don't mind that they spread, because they're hard to control. They'll get a white flower, and it's nice to have them higher up. Like the path behind me is lower, and then you can see all the white flowers. Where when you're up on the path up there, you can't really see the white flowers. So yes, it's a lot of work to have paths around and behind your garden, but you can view some of these things up close then. A later daffodil or jonquil is this one, and it smells like gardenias. Really a pretty one. So that one for sure gets cut and brought in the house. Talked about violets. Whoa, I try to keep them out of the main garden, but in the wild area here, they're so pretty. I think they found a home in the main garden though, because I just can't keep up anymore. This is where another tree went down last year. And hubby was going to pull it out, but I said, just leave it. The girls and I will probably make it into a fairy garden.